He ignited 2 candles and then placed before me a jar of wine and a large tray containing bread, cheese, olives, honey, and some dry fruits. Then he sat near me, and after apologizing for the small quantity, but not for the simplicity of the food, asked me to join him. We partook of the repast in understanding silence, listening to the wailing of the wind and the crying of the rain, and at the same time I was contemplating his face and trying to dig out his secrets, meditating the possible motive underlying his unusual existence. Having finished, he took a copper kettle from the fire and poured pure, aromatic coffee into 2 cups. Then he opened a small box and offered me a cigarette, addressing me as brother. I took one while drinking my coffee, not believing what my eyes were seeing. He looked at me smilingly, and after he had inhaled deeply of his cigarette and sipped some coffee, he said, "Undoubtedly, you are thinking upon the existence here of wine and tobacco and coffee, and you may also be wondering over my food and comforts. Your curiosity is justified in all respect, for you are one of the many who believe that in being away from the people, one is absent from life and must abstain from all its enjoyment." Quickly I agreed, yes, it is related by the wise men that he who deserts the world for the purpose of worshipping God alone will leave behind all the enjoyment and plenty of life, contenting himself with the simple products of God alone, and existing on plants and water. After a pause, heavy with thought, he mused, "I could have worshipped God while living among His creatures, for worship does not require solitude. I did not leave the people in order to see God, for I had always seen Him at the home of my father and mother. I deserted the people because their natures were in conflict with mine, and their dreams did not agree with my dreams. I left man because I found that the wheel of my soul was turning one way and grinding harshly against the wheels of other souls, which were turning in the opposite direction. I left civilization because I found it to be an old and corrupt tree, strong and terrible, whose roots are locked into the obscurity of the earth, and whose branches are reaching beyond the cloud, but its blossoms are of greed and evil and crime, and its fruit is of woe and misery and tear. Crusaders have undertaken to blend good into it and change its nature, but they could not succeed. They died disappointed, persecuted, and torn." Yusuf leaned toward the side of the fireplace, as if awaiting the impression of his words upon my heart. I thought it best to remain a listener, and he continued, "No, I did not seek solitude to pray and lead a hermit's life, for prayer, which is a song of the heart, will reach the ears of God even when mingled with the shout and cry of thousands of voices. To live the life of a recluse is to torture the body and soul and deaden the inclination, a kind of existence which is repugnant to me, for God has erected the bodies as temples for the spirits, and it is our mission to deserve and maintain the trust reposed in us by God. No, my brother, I did not seek solitude for religious purpose, but solely to avoid the people and their laws, their teaching and their traditions, their ideas and their clamor and their wailing. I sought solitude in order to keep from seeing the faces of men who sell themselves and buy with the same price that which is lower than they are, spiritually and materially. I sought solitude in order that I might not encounter the women who talk proudly with 1,000 smiles upon their lips, while in the depths of their thousands of hearts there is but one purpose. I sought solitude in order to conceal myself from those self-satisfied individuals who see the spectre of knowledge in their dreams and believe that they have attained their goal. I fled from society to avoid those who see but the phantom of truth in their awakening and shout to the world that they have acquired completely the essence of truth. I deserted the world and sought solitude because I became tired of rendering courtesy to those multitudes who believe that humility is a sort of weakness and mercy a kind of cowardice and snobbery a form of strength. I sought solitude because my soul wearied of association with those who believe sincerely that the sun and moon and stars do not rise save their coffers and do not set except in their gardens. I ran from the office seekers who shattered the earthly fate of the people while throwing into their eyes the garden dust and filling their ears with sounds of meaningless talk. I departed from the ministers who do not live according to their sermons and who demand of the people that which they do not solicit of themselves. I sought solitude because I never obtained kindness from a human unless I paid the full price with my heart. I sought solitude because I loathed that great and terrible institution which the people call civilization, that symmetrical monstrosity erected upon the perpetual misery of humankind. I sought solitude, for in it there is a full life for the spirit, and for the heart, and for the body. I found the endless prairies where the light of the sun rests, and where the flowers breathe their fragrance into space, and where the streams sing their way to the sea. I discovered the mountains where I found the fresh awakening of spring, and the colorful longing of summer, and the rich songs of autumn, and the beautiful mystery of winter. I came to this far corner of God's domain, for I hungered to learn the secrets of the universe, and approached close to the throne of God. Yusuf breathed deeply, as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. His eyes shone with strange and magical rays, and upon his radiant face appeared the sign of pride, will, and contentment. A few minutes passed, and I was gazing placidly at him and pondering the unveiling of what had been hidden from me. Then I addressed him, saying, "You are undoubtedly correct in most of the things you have said, but through your diagnosis of the social ailment, you prove at the same time that you are a good doctor. I believe that the sick society is in dire need of such physician who should cure it or kill it. This distressed world begs your attention. Is it just or merciful to withdraw yourself from the ailing patient and deny him your benefit?